What's up, my chatty little cherry cliff foodies? This is Rob from A Gay Guy Plays, and today on The Daily Grind, as promised, I have gone and sorted out all of my feelings from the things that we've seen on Railjack thus far, and I'm ready to dish them up for you. However, if you've not watched yesterday's video, I actually cover all of the Railjack core systems in there, and I'm going to be referencing some of those today, such as avionics, intrinsics, etc. And if you have no clue what any of those things are, it's going to make this video a tad bit hard to understand. So if you haven't watched it already, I'm going to go ahead and leave it linked up in the top corner as well as down in the description box below, so make sure you check that out. Now, when it comes to the gameplay that we saw yesterday and all of the information that was revealed, there is basically one sentence that can sum up my entire range of feelings on the situation, which is, I'm not excited, but I am interested. It's kind of like the feeling you get when somebody wants to take you to a museum on the first date. You're like, you want to go here? Like, is this it? Or are we like gonna go grab drinks afterwards? Maybe watch a movie or something? Like, this isn't just it, right? Are we getting churros? Do they have alcohol there? Because if they have those two, maybe I'm gonna be okay. And that's kind of how I feel about the whole situation with churros and alcohol being Archwing. Because from everything I've seen thus far, the only thing I'm really excited about is the fact that I'm going to be able to use my Archwing to tear through all of their little spaceships and just shoot at things out in the universe. That's really the only thing I am excited about thus far. So if you guys were just trying to check the temperature and how I'm feeling about it, that's your little bit of TLDR. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. Be sure to leave a like on your way out. See you guys next time. However, for those of you guys who want to jump in a little bit deeper, let's go ahead and really get dirty. So first and foremost, I do have to say they should have had a very clear disclaimer at the very, very beginning of the gameplay. Now, for those of you guys who are really paying attention throughout, you'll kind of get these bits and pieces, and you'll kind of be able to put them all together and say, ooh, they were not very prepared. So as many of you guys are aware, the dev stream was actually 30 minutes late because, you know, this Railjack demo was coming hot and fresh out the kitchen, right? Which means that they probably didn't have much time to rehearse anything, to be honest with you. And for the demos that you guys have seen at TennoCon, or in other dev streams too, they'll actually take the time to like walk through each different part of it to make sure that it runs smoothly. This was a little bit rougher around the edges, which I don't mind. And I felt like that they needed to go ahead and really underline that, exclamation point it, and put it in bold letters saying, listen, it's really, really raw. So when they got into some of the gameplay, it felt a little bit like unprepared and chaotic, which, you know, for those of you guys who like watching a little bit of a shitstorm unfold, I kind of enjoy. Now, they didn't have all of the items, aka some of their avionics, the tactical ones specifically. They were meant to purchase that, I guess, ahead of time, and they didn't do that, so they didn't have the tactical avionics to go ahead and show on screen. In addition to that, they were talking about crafting certain things, aka munitions, that they were going to be able to use for the ordinances, aka like the missile launchers on the ship. And they never got to craft that. I don't know whether it was, I think that part of it was a bug, and also another part of it was they kept getting interrupted whenever they were trying to craft these missiles, and you keep hearing Sheldon in the background. He was like, well, if I had some missiles, this would be nice if I had some missiles. Sheldon never got his missiles because y'all, everybody was too busy doing everything else. Like I was saying, it did not seem scripted at all. They were kind of like flying by the seat of their pants. They also went off script a little bit. There was one part where DE Steve was saying to Rebecca, oh, I didn't think you were going to go this way. You said you weren't going this way, or something along those lines. So you could tell they were really just kind of like hit the ground running. We're going to go ahead and figure things out. If they had a bit of a disclaimer straight out of the gate, that like, you guys, this is, and they kind of did. They said, you guys, this is the dev build, you know, yada, yada, yada. But another thing that they also kind of hinted at was the fact that they might have been a bit underleveled for the things that they were taking on. Sheldon had repeatedly say, oh, you didn't cheat this time around, aka they didn't kind of bump up their weapons and, you know, their shields and their hull and all of that into higher tiers. And Steve did also mention that they were kind of jumping into a mission that was a little bit more difficult for them. Those two things happened in different parts of the dev stream. So that's why I'm kind of making note of it ahead of time, because the gameplay that we did see was a bit messy. So that's just my stance on that. If they had a little bit of a stronger disclaimer, just saying we've never done this or we haven't done this enough to really make it look smooth. But you know what? It was good to see it in action. It was messy, but at least we know what we're kind of getting into, right? So the first thing that I wanted to go ahead and address is some clan stuff. Because boy oh boy is Railjack going to be clan heavy. Now one of the things that I wanted to stress, because I saw a lot of comments about this in the previous video saying, oh my god, this is going to be such a grind, it's so much resources, yada yada yada, so on and so forth. Do keep in mind that they've got a different clan size. I think they said they were a storm clan, something along those lines. So it's not like the biggest clan out there, I believe, but it is like one of the larger clans, and also all of the resource counts were not finalized, so I wouldn't judge anything based off of the grind. However, I do want to point out a couple things. If you are in a larger clan with not very active clan members, you might want to trim the fat and like scale down, so that way you don't have to farm as many resources. You know, this is just planning ahead of time that I want to give you guys, so that you don't have to like look at it in the future and say, oh shit, we've got to do all of that. Or maybe you need to do the opposite. Maybe you just need to join a different clan that does have active members in there. Or maybe if you're in a solo clan, invite some of the friends that you've been making recently into your small clan to at least have them help you out. Because as many of you guys saw, well, on stream at least, if you guys were there during my live stream and I was kind of like trying to get some of the Railjack stuff off the air, some of us in the clan were contributing and I needed to get it done ASAP, so I really just poured all of my resources into it, and even some plat. And I don't think that's fair that some clan members, of course, are going to be contributing so much while others are literally going to do nothing and reap all of the benefits. It just feels kind of like somebody's leeching in a mission and really not like lifting their weight. So get all of your clan stuff sorted. And this also kind of harkens into something that we're gonna say along later, is I don't like people getting in the way of my success. Like I don't want to be dragged down, right? And it kind of feels like if you're in a large clan that's filled with a lot of people that are either inactive or just don't want to contribute at all, it's like dragging you down. And I'm like, listen, don't fuck with my joy. Right now, you fucking with my joy. And some people, of course, are clearly not going to be very fond of the fact that, you know, you do have to research it in the clan and yada, yada, yada. They don't want to deal with all of that kind of stuff. I hate depending on others to get the job done, especially when some people just don't want to contribute. So that's definitely one of my big issues with this. Like there's that research portion where you kind of have to do all of the different tiers, and I'm just hoping, you know, that everybody in the clan contributes as much as they can. Now, kind of going along that same theme, I did want to kind of make note of all of the solo stuff versus some of the group stuff. Now, as many of you guys know, I play on public missions and I do solo at the same time. Well, not at the same time, but you know, I do like solo and pub. Those are my two things. I tend to not jump into things with a pre-planned group. So I tend to like fly by the seat of my pants. I like to kind of, I guess you would say, be self-reliant. And that's what is also reflected in a lot of my group gameplay. Like if I'm going out in a public mission, it's not really a public mission, it's a solo mission that other players happen to be in as well. That's how I treat it. I'm like, you handle your own shit. And I've gotten a lot of heat from it from some like really intense Care Bears out there. You should be reviving and you should always be taking care of your teammates. I'm like, listen honey, this is not Bleeding Heart Frame, this is Warframe. Okay, I did not know that there was a contractual agreement that I signed when I went ahead and logged into Warframe that said I must revive everybody who falls in my mission. It's not against TOS to not revive somebody, and you know what? If it's convenient, I will revive you. However, if you've been dying consistently, I ain't doing jack shit for you, because guess what? You're getting in the way of my happiness. And that's one of the things that I'm definitely kind of worried about when it comes to Railjack and the co-op slash solo aspect of it. Now, the main reason for that is because when they were talking about Railjack difficulty, they specifically said you're not gated out of anything. However, as you go up into some of the higher tier missions, it's just gonna be a little bit harder to do it by yourself. Now, the big reason that I wanted to bring this up was because when they say difficulty, we tend to think about it in a very traditional way. Like, the enemies become more difficult. There's more, they deal more damage, they are harder to kill, yada, 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 and so on and so forth. But I think this is going to be a different type of difficulty when it comes to co-op play, because the thing about it is, when they say difficulty, do they mean difficult based on enemies, or is it difficult because you're going to be managing a lot of things and it's difficult for one person to manage all of these things? And that's kind of like where my fear is, because I'm like, I get it. Like, if we're getting hit by enemies that are very, very difficult or whatever, maybe there's a different strategy or tactic that we need to do to take them on. You know, like, if you've got a highly armored enemy, you can either strip off the armor, that's one solution, or bypass the armor, that's the other solution, right? Or just stealth by all of them and just complete objectives without even trying to fight them. There are different, like, ways to take on a difficult enemy. But if it's because you're managing a bunch of different things, there's only so much that a single human being can do at the exact same time. So part of me is like, ooh, please don't let it be that kind of difficulty, because that's going to be kind of shitty. Now, the reason why I'm kind of like worried about this is because they're not going to be shipping with the command intrinsic. So for those of you guys who don't know, that is the progression system that is actually tied into your character specifically. There's going to be a tactical intrinsic, there's going to be piloting one, gunnering one, and an engineering one. So the one that they showed off is if you're a pilot and you've got high intrinsics in piloting, basically you're going to be able to maneuver the ship better, you're going to have specific maneuvers for ships. So you're going to unlock maneuvers as a pilot. In addition to that, you'll get less collision damage, so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada. So that's one of the things that, that is going to be introduced. But after all of that comes down, they're also going to be releasing something called a command intrinsic. And this is meant more for the solo play. So command intrinsic is going to be managing NPCs on your ship to handle all of these tasks that you would have players do. The only thing that I'm kind of worried about is, like, you know, you go and release this command intrinsic, but when? And I don't mean any offense to this, but as many of you guys know, they have pushed back New War, and I don't think we're going to see the story part of the quest until sometime in 2020. And the fact is, we saw New War premiered not in this year's TennoCon, but in last year's TennoCon. So there was last year, there was this year, and it ain't even coming out this year. So we don't got New War. When are we going to get this command intrinsic that isn't shipping at launch? Right? So there are definitely going to be some struggles there when it comes to playing solo if you don't want to depend on other people. And that's the other thing that I kind of want to make note on. They've created this whole communication system, right? Because it seems to be that dependent. We need someone piloting the ship. We need somebody creating stuff in engineering. So they have to make all of these kind of like audio cues to let certain players know that, right? My issue with that is, if you're in a public mission and you have an obnoxious teammate, whether they're just doing it to troll you or whether they're doing it because they think that they're the fucking savior of the entire solar system and they think that you should, like, you know, follow every single beck and call that they have, it can potentially be spammed. It can be used to really just infuriate other people you're in a group with. And the fact is, if you're all being put in the same place to work together, the last thing you want to do is hear someone barking orders at you that you don't think has, like, their head on straight, right? So part of me is like, please let that be a thing that is optional that we can turn off, and maybe lets them know that we're not responding to them, because I don't want to deal with any of that. And again, it's one of those things that worry me, because it does seem like in this game mode, relying on other people is required. And I really don't like to rely on other people. I'm just putting that out there into the universe. Now, we did talk about the command intrinsics, and I actually think that the whole intrinsic system is really, really cool. It's kind of like this progression-based system where you can up your individual skills, and wherever you go, if you're an intrinsic pilot, you will always have your maneuvers, you will always have your collision reduction, so on and so forth. If you are a gunner, you'll always have your proficiency in guns. You'll also, be able to hit enemies a little bit harder wherever you go. I think that is cool. However, the rest of the systems, I'm not super keen on. So when it comes to like your ship and the construction of the ship, like I had stated before, it's like a big flying MOA. So if you guys have never constructed your own MOA in Fortuna, which by the way, supposedly in the Steam, achievements, only like 2% of people have built a MOA. And that's why I'm kind of like stressing this out to you guys. It's also like building a kit gun. There are 3 parts. It's going to be your shield, your engines, and your energy system, whatever it's called. I forgot what the exact name is. But it's like picking out 3 parts for your kit gun. It's like the barrel, the receiver, and then the other thing. I don't remember what it's called, but you know exactly what I'm saying. It's like, it's a 3-part system. And then you also get 3 weapons, which you can put on either part of your ship. Is it 3 weapons? Yes, because it's the main gunner, the side guns, and then the ordnance. So again, it's very much like putting together your own MOA. In addition to that, the whole system that they have with the actual ship itself, while it looks really cool, the UI is absolutely beautiful, it's basically Warframe. And I really wanted to stress that for you because literally the avionics that you get, whether they're battle avionics or whether they're the kind of like inherent avionics or the tactical avionics, they're all just mod cards. They're just all mod cards with different icons. And if this doesn't cool you off, you can level up each individual avionic with avionic endo. So it's basically you're using endo of a different name to level up your avionics. So it's basically the same thing as a mod card. In addition, you have the avionics grid, and each slot on the grid is basically like a mod slot. And you can polarize, or you can upgrade those slots, aka polarize them, to make whatever is in that slot stronger. So it's the same systems except with a little bit of a twist. So it's not anything like really unique or crazy to me. It's really just a lot of AI switching and using the same basic core stuff, which to be honest with you, I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, mainly because of the fact that it's good for players to kind of be able to see the similarities in one thing and transfer it over into another thing. But for anybody who thinks this is revolutionary and new, it's not. It's basically like a big flying MOA. So the systems don't really do very much for me. But again, the UI is very, very pretty. Now, when it comes to the way that I'm gonna play Railjack, I was gonna call it Arcwing, which is really kind of like where I'm leaning. From what we've seen thus far, I'll be real with you. I don't necessarily want to be a pilot because I don't like the movement. It looks really janky and certain maneuvers are going to be, put behind progression in the pilot tree. I don't really give a shit about the pilot tree. I don't want to pilot my ship. Like, I'd rather have the tactics and maybe that'll help me go invisible or some bullshit like that. From what I've seen, I don't like the guns. Like, especially in space combat where there's a lot of distance between you and other enemies, I've just seen a whole lot of projectiles. And that can be a pain in the ass. Like, my favorite gun in Arcwing is the Singus. I was going to call it the Pingus, but it's the Singus. And it's hit scan. So basically you're firing off bullets into space, but it's like, the way that it's calculated, it's a hit or it's not a hit. So for me, I'm like looking at all these projectile-based weapons on the front, which you're trying to maneuver at the same time, doesn't seem great to me. And what's even worse is if you're on a side gun and literally somebody else is steering the ship, and you gotta deal with projectiles at long range, that's a no for me too. In addition to that, I don't like the crafting. Like, I don't want to have to pull together resources to use a majority of the ship's functions. That's just a thing for me. Like, guess what's easier? rather than making, a dome, whatever, ammo thing, a dome exploder, is what I'm gonna call it, for the big sniper gun at the beginning of the ship, instead of making munitions to launch out missiles, you know what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna park my ship somewhere quiet and safe, or if we have the option to go invisible, and then I'm gonna go launch my Arcwing out there, because my Arcwing's got several formas in there, and I got several formas on the weapons too, and I'm gonna go run amok on the enemies. So the ships, their weapons better be extremely, extremely powerful for us to really want to invest and use them, or else I'm not even really gonna want a gun on the ship whatsoever. So really, at the end of the day, this is just a vehicle to drop me off to play Arcwing. Unless, of course, they have ramming systems, which I've been told there may be, I can't confirm because I may be under NDA or not, abilities to ram things, or ram-like abilities. I'm just saying. Aside from ramming shit, I think I'm gonna just drop my vehicle into invisibility or behind a fucking asteroid or some shit, and then I'm just gonna go run amok with Arcwing, which I don't really know if that accomplishes what they wanted to accomplish with Railjack, because the Railjack in and of itself does not interest me whatsoever. Well, it interests me, but I'm not that excited about it. So those are all of my feelings in summation when it comes to Railjack thus far. Let me know how you feel down in the comments below. And I also want to stress, and this is a big thing, this is just based on what we've seen. The gameplay that was a little bit sloppy and everybody was kind of all over the place when they were kind of under-leveled. It's based off of that. And it's very different playing it in the game and, just watching somebody else play it. I'm sure the experience is completely different. And as many of you know, I did not like the looks of Arcwing straight out of the gate. However, Arcwing is probably one of my favorites. Like Arcwing Interception, probably one of my favorite game modes out there. Actually, I would say it's in my top 3 favorite game modes out there. I think it would be Disruption, Ground Interception, Arcwing Interception, everything else. That's kind of like the way that it kind of crumbles. So for me, Arcwing is definitely something that I'm surprised that I enjoy. So maybe I'm going to enjoy my little trip to the museum. Regardless, that is going to do it for me for now. Share all of your feelings down in the comments below. Are you at all excited? Because I'm going to be honest with you. I saw how yesterday's video was doing. I was like, I don't think anybody is excited for Railjack. So toss all your feelings down in the comments below. And as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your fruity pastry. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.